There's so many ways for you to show up online, profit, and make an impact with your business. That's what the Heart-Centered Business Success Show is all about. Inspiring you with stories of generous women and equipping you with real strategies to help your business succeed, because I know you've got a powerful gift to share. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hi, Rebekah. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Anna. Thanks so much for having me.
So why don't we start out just by telling us a little bit about you and your business?
Well, I am Rebekah, and I am the founder of an online learning center called You Are Well. And it's really all about teaching women who feel lost in their health journey about the healing power of nutrition and the foods that we eat.
I love that. So I was going to ask you another question, but I was like, let's dive in with the first question. So how did this business get started? Like, take us back to the very, very beginning. And I would love to hear how you found your first client, but just more specifically, like, how did this journey and this business birth for you?
So I have a nice long journey getting to this place. Long story is that I actually started in another career, and my own health was suffering, and it was that very nondescript, maybe I'm crazy, I don't feel well, but everybody keeps saying I'm normal. And yet in my early 20s, I feel like I describe all these problems that 40-year-old women have. This is not okay. And so through a journey of research and learning, I discovered things that then led me to going back to school and becoming a holistic nutritionist. And then I entered this world. It started off as a brick and mortar business. I had a wellness center. I met with clients in person, and it was hard. I was in an area where holistic health wasn't necessarily readily accepted. The idea of natural was still very new, like it's totally different than what it is today. And it was a lot of like lunch and learn type networking situations, and every chamber of commerce event that I could get my hands on, I was at. And it was a lot of that kind of peddling to get clients. And I would get these women who it was just kind of, I think I was not knowing how to market. I was marketing what they knew, and I was getting women who were interested in weight loss. And I felt like I was pulling teeth to myself and to my clients. It just was a difficult job. Like I never lost that love for what I was trying to do, but wasn't quite right with my clients. And so my husband's job moves us around like crazy people. Like, we're basically nomads. And so when we moved from where we were to the next place, I thought, I can't keep finding a place to rent, getting into a lease agreement that I may or may not be here through. So let me shift and let me do some online clients. And I even stepped back from my own business and took a job with a national association for holistic nutrition professionals, and kind of worked with clients on the side and began to really see the ones I loved working with. The people who I felt like, wow, when I get off the phone with you and you're getting it and you're feeling better, like I feel alive. I feel energized rather than drained. And it kind of helps recenter what I was focused on. And then after some more time and after more moves and getting established in local areas and doing local speaking and realizing that I didn't want to have to rebuild every time we moved at all, I switched to this online business, which is what I have now. And it is relatively new. It's only been around since the beginning of 2017. And it is still morphing and growing. It always will. I hope it always does. But I think that I have learned over time, and still do, like I say, when you work with people who it just isn't quite right, like you're not serving them to the highest ability that you can, then it's not the right fit. And so it's been an interesting journey coming to this place where I feel like I'm working with that client that I just can't wait to get on the phone with, and I can't wait to see her saying like, I'm not crazy and I'm finally feeling better.
Amazing. When you think about that and you don't have to say names, obviously, but when you think about the first client that was your ideal client, essentially, right? Or someone that like you were a good match, where like they were feeling the results that they wanted, you were feeling satisfied, like, wow, like I'm a part of this journey. Like, what was different about that client?
I think first and foremost, it was that I didn't feel tired when I was done with the session. Because being my personality, I do much better in like speaking to large groups. So one-on-one clients can sometimes, like, I feel so much of the burden that they're going through. And so sometimes I feel like I almost take on their pain in a way. And so when you feel like you're not just taking on pain, but also helping relieve it, like I didn't walk away tired. And I looked forward to our next sessions, and I was able to provide recommendations in a way that she wanted to follow. It didn't feel like we were pulling teeth for each other, right? It was very much like, okay, I feel the overwhelm, but I also feel the reasoning, the drive and the motivation to do this. So it really felt like I was walking alongside of someone rather than dragging them.
Mm-hmm. Man, those are powerful vision. And what do you think made the difference? What do you think, like, what was different about her, or where she was at in her journey, or what she was open to, that made it so much more delightful?
So much. I think first off, it was number one, that why she came to me was more in line. So rather than someone saying, oh, I'd really like to lose weight, and then I work to adjust and say, look, if you're having a hard time losing weight, then it's probably because of an imbalance somewhere else. So let's readjust the goal. I mean, we don't want to ignore losing weight, but if hormones are off or stress is off or whatever is causing the weight gain, let's address that. So I was having to work to reshift the vision for her. Whereas this one particular client came to me saying, I can't feel this way anymore. I know something is off. No one else seems to quite get this. And can you help me with what this root issue is? And so my work was
willing to go to the root.
Exactly, right. So my work was diving right in rather than persuading to change. Exactly. So that was a big thing. And then I think also there was a little bit of a personality that jibed in terms of she was a note taker, and she really paid attention. So there was a little of that as well.
Yeah, totally. I love that though. And I think it's so hopeful for people to hear, like, there are probably people who've been watching this interview that are maybe in the spot of they do have clients, but it's not feeling right? So I love that there's that hope of like, well, not only did our goals align and our core values, but also like our style, right? Like, and that's more pleasant for her too, right?
Yes. It was totally pleasant for both of us. And I think that as I have worked through my business, even just recently, as I'm sitting there trying to describe my ideal client, it dawned on me that something that was really important was not just the health situation she was in, but a little bit of her personality. I want someone who's driven, who's determined, who cares about details. She may not be quite as over the top as I might be, but that's why I have this job. I'm meant to kind of fill in those gaps. But someone who says, I just want a perfect plan to follow that I will never have to change and I will never have to think about again, is not a good fit, right? So when I recognize that, and I recognize not just the problem, but also the personality was important, it helps pull the right people in.
So good. And I know that you have done beautifully on your website about like sort of like honing in on this, but if there's someone watching and they're like, oh my gosh, like, how do I get that? Like, how do I get, I'm in the spot of like working with people that aren't my dreamy peeps. How do I get to the spot of being clear? Like, I don't know what Starbucks drink they like, right? Like all these ideal client exercises, I don't know how to do them. Like, how do you get to the spot where you are able to connect with people like that?
Such a good question. And I feel like everybody kind of works through things differently. So like in my case, what I kind of had to do is first I put myself back in my shoes when I would have been my ideal client. And I had a hard time remembering all of that. It's been a long time. And I was in a different situation. I still was focused on maybe the wrong thing. I didn't know everything I know now. So there was some learning and gleaning from that. There was some learning and gleaning from taking my favorite clients. I took 3 of my top clients and I said, can I just throw out some words to you and let me know which one resonates with you? Wow. And that helped me. Some are very type A, some are very not type A. But that word determined resonated with everyone. Right.
So you actually talked to those clients?
Did, yes.
Wow. Like what sort of words were you throwing out to them?
Things like perfectionist and driven, determined. Are you obsessive? Do you feel like you're type A? Do you feel like even a question of, do you feel bad? Do you feel not well? And even though my company name is You Are Well, I think so many people in the situation that, like when I'm working with clients, they don't necessarily see it as not being well. Like when I was having daily headaches and suffering from acne, if somebody said, oh, how do you feel? I'd have been like, fine, I just have a headache. I didn't see myself as not being well. So,
Interesting.
even asking them, like, do you feel bad? Do you feel like your life is limited? So basically after I started throwing things out, which ones resonated with all four of us? Essentially, it was my 3 top clients and myself. And we kind of were divided into 2, if you had to do like 2 sides. Couple of us are pretty type A, couple were not so much, but like there were a few things that resonated with everyone. Wow. And those things were the things where I was like, okay, there it is. So that was part. And then for me too, another thing I did is I took myself out of where I was in health and put myself in a position that was similar. So like business is a struggle for me. Like, like running a business is easy, but like marketing and sales and how I feel about making all of this work, I often feel lost. And so I actually just kind of did like a comparison type analogy. How do I feel in my business right now? How do I feel when I think about marketing and sales and putting together all these packages and emailing and how much social media? And I'm like, oh my golly, like, I just feel like there's so much to do. Everybody has these promise guaranteed things that are guaranteed to work. And I'm tired of it. Like, I just want to feel like what's right for me. And I was like, okay, that's how my client feels.
Wow.
But in their health. So I had to almost put myself in their shoes, but in a thing I could resonate with. Because I can't with health anymore, right? It's not that I can't. I feel their pain. But it's just been such a long time since I felt that way with health. I had to put myself in a position where I felt the same way. I could really feel that vulnerable again.
Oh my gosh. That is so good. And I feel like I actually do that too. And I didn't realize I do that. I do that with like relationships, right? Like in my business, you're right. Like, it's not that we don't struggle, but it becomes so natural to us that we're like, oh yeah, like it's kind of like a no-brainer. But when I put myself in something like in my health or in my relationships, right, when I'm like something I'm focused on actively improving, it's so much easier to put ourselves back in the place of like, it all seems so complicated, it doesn't seem basic, like just take me back to square one. I don't know how to even talk to my husband. I mean, which I do, right? But it just feels like I need you to like hold my hand. I need, like, it's so much easier when we put ourselves in a life category that we are not rocking.
Yes. Because we do, like you said, it just becomes automatic. I'm like, what do you mean? What's healthy lunch? Like, there's a gazillion choices. Like, I don't understand that question. And I'm like, okay, right. Like, and then people are like, well, you should just, share your story. And I'm like,
what?
Okay, but where do I start? Because my story, I mean, people don't want to listen to me talk for 4 hours. Then trust me, I could. Like, I could really go on about this for a really long time. So, like the nurture sequence that I'm like, oh, how do I write this email sequence? It's just, that's how people feel about how do I know it's healthy and this, that, and the other. So yeah, exactly.
It's such a testament too, because, and if people aren't subscribed to your emails, they should be, because I get them. I think they're awesome. And I feel like in your emails, you do such a good job of that at like bringing it back to the very basics. And it's such good reminders for me. And you're probably like, well, this is kind of obvious, but it really is like going back to the basics. So helpful.
Yeah. Well, and in my emails, as you've probably seen recently, I almost always connect them to something that's falling apart in my life. So a couple times ago when my kitchen was like in shambles because I thought I could do it myself. And I was like, oh, good. And it did. It reminded me that painful situation that I was in. I was like, I remember. Like, I remember when I was dealing with my health and like, I couldn't do it alone and yet I couldn't find anybody to help. And then this last email with my son and the stuff he's going through. And it was, I'm reminded of those places my clients are in when I'm in them in a non-related situation in my life. I feel like every day goes by and I'm like a learning lesson and something that helps me think back to where my clients are.
So good. Thank you for sharing that story. That was powerful.
Yeah.
The second question I have for you is, in your business, either in the past or even currently, like, what do you feel like is your #heart-centered problem or thing that you struggle with because you are a caring entrepreneur, and how do you fight it? What truth do you use to overcome it?
I feel like I have so many. And that's so not true. It's not even really fair to say because that makes it sound like my world is terrible and falling apart. But I feel like in my business, ranging from how do I get enough out there fast enough and wanting to help everybody and do all the things and all of, all the normal business stuff. But I feel like one of my problems is that I see prices everywhere for everything going up, sometimes unfairly so. And then I feel the need to compensate. That I feel like good health shouldn't cost, it should not just be for people who can afford it. And I struggle with pricing myself fairly and pricing myself for what I'm really worth, and yet pricing myself in a way that people can afford, because I really want the world to hear what I'm saying. And I know that one day I will be able to speak for free in places and venues. But meanwhile, as I'm watching my, monthly balances be in the red because I'm giving everything away for free, it's that, I am worth it. What I offer is, far more valuable, not to like toot my horn, but like what you're learning with your health that could change your life can be far more valuable than something, very superficial that someone's charging 3 and 4 times as much for. And I need to see that, and I need to get people to recognize that. But I also need to give myself that grace and flexibility to say, sometimes you can offer a discount, and it's not that it's unfair to everybody else. And sometimes you can even extend it for free when you feel like that need is there. But you don't have to give everything away because you can't compete, if you will.
So I feel like so many people can resonate with that, right? How do I be in integrity and stay, because your business, right, is your business, but it's also your calling, right? Like you also feel a strong sense of purpose to deliver your message to a mass amount of people and really change an industry.
Yes, it is. And that, I think, is what makes it so hard. I think everybody who loves what they do will sometimes want to give it away for free. I think that's a problem for many of us. But yeah, when it's a calling, because like I said at the beginning, I was actually in a previous career that I didn't have to leave. I was doing well. This was much beyond that. This was a higher calling. This is a passion. This is wanting to completely revolutionize the way that we, not just as a society and as our country, but like as a world, approach our health. And it feels so big that it's hard to start off with 5 people in a program when you're like, but I just want to shout it from the rooftops.
Yep. Totally. So if people are listening and they're resonating with what you're saying, do you have any free resources that you can offer, or how do they find out more about you and You Are Well?
Yes. So a few ways. You can always go to the website, youarewellhealth.com. When you're there, there's a free download for the Ultimate Grocery Guide for Health and Healing, which is so much more than just about groceries. It's the foods you should be stocking your kitchen with, the pantry, setting you up for success. And I say healthy eating, that's a little bit black and white. Nutritious, clean eating. And then it also goes into details about ingredients you should be avoiding and why. Things to look out for in packaged foods, things that should be organic, things that aren't as important to be organic, and so on. So it's a really fantastic resource, even if you've been eating healthy, to kind of confirm you're on the right track and maybe get a little bit of additional information. And then finally, I have a free Facebook group, which is full of education and support and just sharing tools and resources all the time. And that is A Different Approach to Health. So if you search that, or if you go to our website or on the Facebook page, you'll be able to find that group very easily. So A Different Approach to Health.
Beautiful. Okay, before we wrap up, I have one more question. I thought of what you were saying that.
Yeah.
If there's someone and they are at the point where you were at, right, and they're feeling like they do have that deeper why and that deeper goal to get healthier, but they're just running into roadblocks, or they're maybe sought medical help, but they're feeling like they didn't find the answers they needed, or they're wanting a deeper professional approach to getting healthy. What would you say is their first step?
Well, it can depend upon what motivates you and how ready you are for change. I think the first step is to even just spend some time searching or coming on to that group and just saying, hey, this is what I have going on. Mm-hmm. Has anybody else had this? Am I crazy? Because I think even though I can sit here right now and say, you're not crazy, if you're sitting here listening to this, you know that I don't know your specific situation, right? And so you're like, well, she doesn't know exactly what I'm going through.
Yeah.
No, I don't. But I know my clients, I know me. And I will say you're not crazy, but it's still, you have to know that. Like internally, you have to know that. So come to a space where you can get the support and know first and foremost, you're not crazy. And if you don't feel good, then it can be better, period. And then from there, with the Learning Center that I'm working to develop, there's sometimes maybe classes that you could take, articles that you can read. And if you feel like it's more than that, like call someone like myself we can do a session and just say, yeah, this may be a route. I can see a path. This is what it might take to get you to a place where you feel better. And just even setting a reality around, like I say, first off, that it can get better. And second, this may not be a 2-week endeavor, a 4-week, detox, and then all of a sudden you're better. You may be signing up for a 6-month journey, an 8-month journey. But the point being is sometimes when we can see the road ahead, it helps us feel a little more equipped to take it on.
So beautiful, so eloquently said. And I feel like that can apply to so many things, right? Like giving yourself the safe space, especially if you felt crazy or other people have made you feel crazy for that issue in the past, right? Like being able to say like, hey, this is my story. This is my truth. Like, this is what's going on. Like, can you as women, and I love that your Facebook group is that space, but like, can you as women surround me and just kind of be present with me as I figure this simple thing out?
Right. Yes, because I wish it was simple. I wish it were just, hey, if you have PMS, here's what you can do. But the reality of the body is that it is so intertwined and connected that 10 women could have PMS symptoms or anxiety or digestive issues, and all 10 could have a different root cause. Mm-hmm. And so it's really about getting to the root and providing the body what it needs to come back into a natural state of balance so that everything begins to heal and everything begins to improve.
So beautiful. Thank you, Rebekah. I feel like I got to get like 900 more questions, but I'll stop. But thank you so much for being here and sharing your heart. And I think it's just so evident when you speak that you care deeply about your work, but also you're super educated, right? Like there's both, like you have the passion and you also have the knowledge and expertise. And so, grateful for you, Rebekah.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so grateful for you as well. I can't imagine where I would be without you.
Thank you, Rebekah.